Missy, one of the things that we debate a lot when we begin the planting season is whether or not we should use a starter fertilizer. Tell us what we need to know about that.
Well, we think that starter fertilizer is very important. There's a lot of advantages from starter fertilizer. A lot of times we'll see that we'll get that early growth response from using it, as we see in this example here, where we've got starter fertilizer on this plant and we don't have any starter on this plant.
Oh, right.
So sometimes we can see some really big advantages in that early growth. It will be environment based. How cool is it? How wet is it? The bigger response that we're going to get to this starter fertilizer.
Okay, now what about disadvantages? Are there any?
Certainly there are some disadvantages to starter fertilizer. The biggest thing is probably just trying to do it on the planter, trying to carry the starter itself, trying to have the attachments on the planter to be able to get it placed properly. So there's a lot of people that struggle, especially as the planters get bigger, to try to keep the starter fertilizer on the planter.
Now what about maturity of the plant? It's got to help it take off and grow faster.
That's correct. Like you can see here, you know, in these two plants where we have starter versus no starter, it's already got an advantage in maturity. This is a V4 plant, this is a V3 plant. So it's already got that advanced in maturity, and we'll see this advancement in maturity continue all the way along. We'll see that this tassels on this plant will come out maybe 5 to 7 days earlier than what we have on this plant. So we do see an advancement in maturity, which at the end of the year means drier corn. So we do see a lot of advantages of that as well.
Okay. So what else do we need to know as we go through trying to make this decision?
Well, one of the things that we get a lot of questions about are from people that have high soil test levels of phosphorus. So phosphorus is part of that starter fertilizer we're looking at. They say, well, I've already got a lot of phosphorus in my soil. Do I really need to put any more on?
Right.
But what we find with phosphorus is that it's just not very available early in the season. So when it's cool and when it's wet out, we don't get good phosphorus availability. So we can have very high levels in our soil, but we can't get it into this plant.
Okay.
So having a little bit of starter fertilizer on there is important. So some of the components that we look at with starter fertilizer is going to be nitrogen and phosphorus, of course phosphorus being, you know, one of the most important things, and then also we look at zinc. So those are the three main things that we say should be in our starter, and then you can always look at other options as far as potassium or sulfur.